Have you ever noticed the way a dog loves? I mean, really noticed it. Not in a casual, oh, he's cute kind of way, but the way their love is pure, unshakable, and unconditional. It's a kind of love that doesn't check your bank balance, doesn't care about your status, doesn't question your mistakes, and doesn't judge your failures. Imagine that a being whose love is so immediate, so unwavering, that it exists purely for the joy of giving. That, my friends, is the love of a dog. We humans in our complex, busy lives often confuse love with conditions. I will love you if you succeed. I will care if you please me. I will stay if things go well. But dogs, they have no such calculations. They love because it is their nature. They love because it is who they are. They don't pause to think, is this person deserving of my love? They simply give. And maybe that is exactly why God gave dogs to humans, to remind us what pure love feels like. Think of a moment when you were at your lowest, when the world felt heavy on your shoulders. You were tired, frustrated, and maybe even ashamed, and yet there was someone, or rather some furry little creature, who ran to you with joy, wagging tail, sparkling eyes, and a heart so open that it seemed to say, I am here, I am with you, you are loved. No lecture, no critique, no strings attached, just love. How many humans can you think of who would greet you with such openness, even at your lowest? Very few, right? But a dog does it effortlessly. And in that effortless act, there is a lesson. Love does not require perfection. Love does not demand repayment. And love does not keep score. Now, let me tell you a story that beautifully illustrates this. There was a man who came home from work every evening, exhausted and stressed. One day, he came back in a particularly bad mood, scolding himself for missing deadlines and worrying about a meeting. As soon as he opened the door, his dog ran to him, jumped up, wagged its tail, and licked his face. And the man, despite all his frustrations, couldn't help but smile. The dog didn't care about the missed deadlines or the tense meeting. It only cared about him. That simple act of love lifted the man's spirits, reminding him that in life, sometimes love and acceptance are all we need to keep going. And isn't that the way God's love works? Unconditional, forgiving, and pure. Dogs are perhaps the closest creatures to embodying divine love in a tangible, visible form. They don't ask why you are sad. They don't demand an explanation for your anger. They don't require a reason to stay by your side. They just do. And in doing so, they quietly teach us a very profound truth. The world would be a much kinder, gentler place if we learned to love without expecting anything in return. Dogs also teach us to be present with our love. When a dog looks at you, it isn't thinking about what happened yesterday, and it isn't planning for tomorrow. It is fully in the moment, fully aware of you, and fully committed to showing its affection. Imagine if we could love others with that kind of presence. Imagine if we could give someone our full attention, our full heart, without distraction, without judgment, without reservation. That is the gift that dogs bring to our lives, the reminder that love is not a transaction, it is a presence. And the beauty of this love is that it transforms us quietly, often without us even realizing it. By being loved so completely, so freely, we learn to open our hearts. We begin to soften, to care more, to give more, to forgive more. A dog doesn't just give love, it inspires love. and an inspiring love. It reminds us of the best parts of ourselves, the parts that are often hidden beneath fear, anger, or ego. So, whenever you look into the eyes of a dog, try to see beyond the fur, the tail, or the playful antics. Look into the soul of the creature, and you will find a mirror to your own heart. You will see how simple, how patient, and how profound love can be. You will realize that God didn't give us dogs merely as companions or pets. They were given as teachers, as reminders, as living examples of unconditional love. And maybe, just maybe, if we learn to love even a fraction of the way a dog loves, our relationships, our families, and our lives would be filled with more joy, more patience, and more harmony. Because in the eyes of a dog, there is no pretense, no judgment, no demand, only love, pure and unwavering. And that, my friends, is a gift that we can carry in our hearts forever. Have you ever noticed how your dog seems to know exactly how you're feeling, even before you say a word? It's almost as if they have a secret radar for human emotions. You could be smiling, laughing, pretending everything is fine, but your dog senses the storm inside you. They sense the tension in your shoulders, the heaviness in your heart, the tightness in your chest, and without a single word, they respond, not with judgment, not with advice, but with presence, with empathy, with love. Isn't it fascinating that a creature, without language, without words as we know them, can connect to us so deeply, so intuitively? It makes you think about how much of our lives are spent hiding our true emotions, doesn't it? How often do we walk into a room wearing a mask, smiling and nodding, while inside we are struggling with fear, anxiety, or sadness, and yet in that moment, a dog looks at us and sees straight through the mask. They see our true self, the part of us that longs for comfort, for reassurance, for connection. And the amazing part is that they don't make us feel small for it. They don't say, "Why are you upset?" or "You should handle your emotions better." They simply sit beside us or lean on us or rest their head on our lap, and in that simple act, they say, "I understand. I am here. You are not alone." This is why I believe God gave dogs to humans, not just to provide companionship, but to teach us emotional awareness and empathy. You see, dogs are like mirrors. They reflect not only our moods but also our energy. When we are calm, they are calm. When we are joyful, they bounce around with delight. When we are anxious, they grow restless, pacing or nudging us with concern. They absorb our emotions as if they are part of their own, and in doing so, they remind us that emotions are contagious, and that energy is shared, and that connection is felt more than spoken. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who had a particularly rough week. Work was overwhelming, relationships were tense, and she felt exhausted and drained. One evening, she sat quietly in her living room, trying to make sense of her thoughts. Her dog, a gentle golden retriever, climbed onto the couch beside her, rested its head on her lap, and looked at her with those deep, understanding eyes. No words were exchanged, no advice was given, and yet she felt an immediate sense of relief, a softening of the tension that had been gripping her all week. Her dog had seen her sadness and, without even knowing it, had helped her begin to heal. That's the silent power of a dog's intuition. Dogs are also remarkably patient with human emotions. They never rush us to cheer up or get over it. They understand that emotions take time, that healing takes time, and that presence is more powerful than any advice. When we cry, they don't leave. When we are silent, they don't fidget. When we are anxious, they don't criticize. They simply sit with us, offering their warmth and companionship, showing us that we don't have to face our emotions alone. And in that patience, there is a lesson for us. How often do we fail to notice the emotions of those around us? How often do we dismiss someone's sadness, anxiety, or frustration because we are too busy, too distracted, or too focused on our own lives? Dogs teach us to slow down, to observe, to feel, and to respond with empathy rather than judgment. They remind us that connection is not about fixing problems. It's about being present with people in their struggles, about reflecting their emotions with love, and about offering support without expectation. Another remarkable thing about dogs is that they never manipulate emotions for their benefit. A dog doesn't pretend to be happy just to make you happy. They don't exaggerate sadness to get attention. Their connection is authentic, immediate, and honest. And in that authenticity, they teach us one of life's greatest truths: that relationships, whether with humans or with God, flourish when emotions are acknowledged, felt, and shared openly. When we learn to see the world through a dog's eyes, we start noticing subtle cues in people. The tone of their voice, the look in their eyes, the tension in their body. We become more attuned to emotions, more sensitive to unspoken needs, and more compassionate in our responses. God gave us dogs to show us that emotions are not obstacles to be avoided or ignored. They are bridges to deeper connection, both with others and within ourselves. So the next time you see your dog staring at you with those soulful eyes, take a moment to feel what they are feeling. Notice how they sense your mood, your tension, and your energy. Learn from their quiet wisdom. They are not just pets, they are teachers of emotional intelligence, empathy, and awareness. And in their silent, loving presence, they remind us of a truth that humans often struggle to remember. To truly connect with others, we must first see and feel them fully with our hearts, not just our minds. God gave dogs to humans to teach us that emotions matter, that empathy matters, and that presence matters. Through their eyes, we learn the art of understanding, the grace of compassion, and the beauty of connecting without words. And perhaps, in learning this lesson from our dogs, we are slowly learning how to become better humans, better friends, and better companions in this journey of life. Loyalty. It's a word we often hear, but how often do we truly experience it in its purest form? We speak of loyalty in friendships, in relationships, in work, but most human loyalty is conditional. It lasts as long as circumstances are favorable, as long as there's mutual benefit, as long as nothing threatens the comfort of the bond. And yet, in the world of dogs, loyalty exists in its raw, unshakable form. Dogs do not calculate loyalty, they embody it. They do not weigh reasons for staying, they simply remain through thick and thin, through joy and sorrow, through health and sickness. That, my friends, is the kind of loyalty that touches the soul. Have you ever heard of Hachiko, the Akita dog in Japan? His story is perhaps one of the most profound lessons in loyalty ever told. Hachiko would meet his owner at the train station every evening as the man returned from work. But one day, the owner passed away suddenly at work. Hachiko continued to wait at the station every evening, faithfully, for nearly 10 years, expecting his beloved friend to return. Rain, snow, heat, none of it deterred him. People came to notice this devotion, and he became a symbol of unwavering loyalty. Think about it. No calculation, no reason, no condition, just steadfast presence. Hachiko teaches us that true loyalty doesn't vanish with circumstance. It endures because it flows from the heart, not from expectation. Dogs teach us that loyalty is not something we need to earn. It is something we inspire by being ourselves. When a dog chooses to follow you, to stay beside you, it is not because you are perfect or flawless. Perhaps you are messy, forgetful, impatient, or flawed in countless ways, and yet the dog remains. It stays not because it benefits from your company, but because it values the bond itself. In that simple act, there is a silent message from God. Loyalty is not transactional, it is relational. It grows when we nurture trust, love, and presence. Now, let me share a small story from my own experience. I once visited a friend who had adopted an elderly dog rescued from the streets. This dog had seen neglect, hunger, and hardship, and yet, the moment my friend opened the door, the dog ran to him with such pure joy and devotion that it brought tears to everyone watching. It didn't matter that he had rescued the dog just a few months ago. It had chosen loyalty in that very instant. The bond between humans and dogs is built not on perfection, but on presence, care, and love. Dogs remind us that loyalty is a choice we make with our hearts, not something we calculate with our minds. And loyalty in dogs is not passive. It is active, it is constant, it is protective. A dog will stand guard over its family, alert to danger, ready to sacrifice comfort, safety, even life, to ensure the well-being of those it loves. Isn't that extraordinary? How often do we humans exhibit that kind of steadfast commitment? How often do we stay with people, support them, and protect them? Not when it's convenient, but simply because our heart compels us to. Dogs hold up a mirror to us, asking us to reflect on our own loyalty. Do we remain for others only when it is easy? Or do we stand firm even when life challenges us, even when circumstances change? There is also a spiritual lesson in a dog's loyalty. Loyalty, when pure, does not demand attention or recognition. A dog is not loyal because it wants praise or reward. It is loyal because that is the very essence of its being. And perhaps in its loyalty, it teaches us a divine principle. God's love for us is loyal, steadfast, and unwavering. No matter how many mistakes we make, no matter how far we wander, God's presence remains constant. Dogs give us a tangible example of this spiritual truth. When we see a dog waiting patiently, guarding, loving, following faithfully, we begin to grasp the essence of unconditional devotion. A devotion we can emulate in our lives, in our relationships, and in our connection with the divine. Another beautiful thing about canon loyalty is its simplicity. There are no hidden motives, no secret agendas, no calculation of risk or reward. Loyalty, as a dog demonstrates it, is not complicated. It is simply the expression of love in action. And this simplicity is a lesson for us. To be loyal, to be devoted, does not require complicated strategies or endless planning. It requires presence, consistency, and heart. To be loyal is to show up, to stand by, and to commit, not because it is easy, but because it is right. So the next time you look into the eyes of your dog, or watch it wait faithfully for you. Remember that God gave us these beautiful creatures not only to love us, but also to teach us. They show us what true loyalty looks like. Not the loyalty of convenience, self-interest, but the loyalty of the heart, steadfast, unconditional, and enduring. In a world where human bonds can sometimes falter, where trust is tested and commitments are questioned, dogs stand as living reminders that loyalty is possible. And perhaps, if we learn from them, we can bring that same unwavering devotion into our own relationships, families, friendships, and even our connection with God. Because loyalty, in its truest form, is not about duty, it is about love. And dogs teach us that love, when constant and wholehearted, can move mountains, heal hearts, and transform lives. Have you ever watched a dog playing in a park, chasing a ball, running after butterflies, or simply rolling in the grass with joy? And have you noticed the absolute freedom in their movement, the complete absence of worry or thought about the past or the future? They are fully present in the moment, fully absorbed in what they are doing, completely at peace with now. This is one of the most beautiful lessons a dog teaches us. But to live in the moment, it sounds simple, doesn't it? But think about how often we humans fail to do this. How often are we consumed by what went wrong yesterday or anxious about what might happen tomorrow? How often do we forget to truly experience the gift of the present, the miracle of this exact moment we are living? Dogs, in their simple and joyful existence, remind us that happiness is not somewhere in the future. It is right here, right now. Let me share a story to illustrate this. A friend of mine had adopted a small puppy full of energy and mischief. One day, she was sitting on her porch, exhausted from work, mentally running through a list of tasks for the next week. The puppy came bounding towards her, grabbed a sock, and started tugging with all its might. At first, she was annoyed, thinking about the chaos and her responsibilities. But then she stopped and watched the puppy play. In that moment, she couldn't help but smile. The puppy wasn't worried about deadlines, bills, or meetings. It wasn't stressed about what it hadn't done yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. It was simply living fully and completely in that moment of play. And somehow in that act, her own mind began to unclench. She realized that joy, like the puppy's play, exists only when we are fully present. Dogs remind us that life is not a rehearsal. We often treat today as if it doesn't matter, as if the real living will happen later, next month, next year, after achieving a goal or after finishing a project. But the truth is, the present is all we have. Dogs know this instinctively. They don't postpone joy. They don't wait for the perfect moment to wag their tails or lick our hands. They show us that each moment, no matter how small, is precious and worth experiencing fully. And perhaps that is one of God's most profound lessons through these creatures, to stop worrying so much about what we cannot control and to embrace what we can, the now. Another thing about dogs and living in the moment is that they teach us to let go. When a dog has a bad day, maybe it got scolded or it had a small accident, it doesn't sulk all day or dwell on it for weeks. It shakes it off literally and moves forward. Have you ever noticed a dog doing that? It's almost comical, yet deeply inspiring. Imagine if we could approach our own mistakes and failures in the same way, acknowledge them, learn from them, and then let them go, moving forward without carrying unnecessary baggage. Dogs show us that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only moment that truly matters is this one. And there is an innocence in this living fully in the moment. Dogs teach us to savor simple pleasures: a walk in the park, a scratch behind the ears, a tasty treat, a game of fetch. They don't require grand achievements or elaborate plans to feel joy. Their happiness is simple, immediate, and complete. And in witnessing this, we humans are reminded that the essence of life is not in complexity, but in simplicity. Joy exists in noticing, appreciating, and fully immersing ourselves in the little gifts of life that often go unnoticed. Living in the moment also connects us to gratitude. When a dog enjoys the present, it is inherently grateful. There is no comparison, no envy, no longing for what it doesn't have. It simply delights in what is offered: attention, food, and love, companionship. And when we learn from dogs, we begin to notice that the present moment itself is a gift. Every breath, every heartbeat, every smile, every shared laugh is part of this incredible miracle of life. Dogs remind us to open our eyes, our hearts, and our minds to this reality, to be fully awake to the here and now. Finally, when we live in the moment, as dogs do, we find peace. Anxiety fades because it cannot exist in the present. Regret loses its grip because we are no longer dwelling on the past. Fear diminishes because we are no longer worrying about what might happen. A dog's ability to be fully present is not just a lesson in happiness, it is a lesson in freedom. Freedom from the chains of time, freedom from constant comparison, freedom from mental clutter. So, the next time you see a dog running through a field, playing with abandon, or simply lying in the sun, watch closely. Let it remind you to breathe, to pause, and to be here now. Let it teach you that the secret to joy is not in achieving more or controlling the future, but in fully living this moment, right here, right now. God gave dogs to humans not only to love us, not only to teach us, but to show us the profound beauty of living fully in the present. An art we often forget, but can learn, surprisingly, from a creature so simple, yet so wise: forgiveness. It is one of the most beautiful, yet most difficult lessons for humans to learn. We hold grudges, we dwell on past mistakes, we replay moments when someone hurt us, sometimes for years, allowing bitterness and resentment to take root in our hearts. And yet, if you have ever observed a dog, you will notice that they embody forgiveness in its purest, most effortless form. A dog will forgive you for scolding it, for leaving it alone, for a moment of neglect, even for something as trivial as chewing your favorite shoe. And they forgive immediately, without hesitation, without remembering the offense, without asking for an apology. It's almost as if God has placed them in our lives to teach us that holding on to anger and resentment only weighs us down, while forgiveness sets the heart free. Let me share a story with you. A friend of mine had a small dog named Max. One day, in a fit of frustration, my friend yelled at Max for knocking over a vase. Max shrank, tail between his legs, and looked up with big, sad eyes. My friend felt guilty, but was too tired to make amends at that moment. Hours later, Max jumped onto the couch, wagged his tail, and licked my friend's face as if nothing had ever happened. No grudge, no bitterness, no silent protest. The message was clear: I forgive you. Let's move on. And in that small act, My friend realized something profound. Life, like Max, is asking us to forgive, not for the sake of others, but for the sake of our own peace. Holding on to anger or resentment is like carrying a heavy backpack all day. Forgiveness, like Max's joyful reunion, allows us to set it down. Dogs also teach us that forgiveness does not require explanation or justification. Humans often attach conditions to forgiveness. I will forgive you if you apologize, or I will forgive you if you change. But dogs don't operate that way. Their forgiveness is immediate and unconditional. A dog does not require a lecture on why you were wrong or how you will make amends. They simply forgive fully and effortlessly. And in observing this, we begin to understand that the most profound forgiveness in life comes when we release expectations, when we let go of the need for others to justify themselves, and when we choose peace over resentment. There is also a profound humility in a dog's forgiveness. To forgive as a dog forgives requires the willingness to let go of pride and ego. It requires the courage to embrace imperfection, both in ourselves and in others. A dog never holds a grudge, never plots revenge, never nurtures resentment. They live fully in the moment, forgiving instantly, reminding us that life is too short to dwell on the wrongs of the past. Their forgiveness is a gift, but also a challenge to rise above our ego and to forgive freely, without expectation. And forgiveness, as taught by dogs, is transformative. It doesn't just heal the relationship between you and your dog, it heals your heart. Every act of forgiveness lightens the soul, reduces stress, and opens the door to joy. Have you ever noticed how you feel after forgiving someone, even something small? There's a sense of relief, a weight lifted, a softness in the heart. Dogs teach us this lesson every day. They forgive immediately, and in doing so, they invite us to experience the same liberation, the same peace. Dogs also show us that forgiveness is tied closely to love. They forgive because they love. Their love is unconditional, and because their love is unwavering, forgiveness is effortless. They don't analyze, they don't judge, they don't calculate, they simply love. And in their love, they demonstrate that forgiveness is not about weakness or submission. It is about the strength to move beyond hurt and embrace connection. God gave us dogs to remind us that love and forgiveness are inseparable, that to truly love is to forgive, and to truly forgive is to free the heart. Another remarkable lesson from dogs is that forgiveness is immediate. Life is fleeting, and holding on to anger wastes precious time and energy. A dog doesn't dwell on yesterday, and neither should we. They forgive today, now, this moment, and move forward. Imagine if we could embrace this mindset. How many relationships, friendships, and families would be saved if we chose to forgive immediately, without delay, without storing resentment in our hearts? Dogs show us that life is too short for grudges, too precious for bitterness, and too beautiful to waste on resentment. So, the next time you look into the eyes of your dog, notice their forgiveness. Notice how effortlessly they let go of mistakes, how quickly they return to joy, how naturally they embrace love over anger. Remember that God gave us dogs not only as companions, not only as friends, but as teachers of a lesson that humans struggle to master, the art of forgiveness. They remind us that forgiveness is not a gift we give to others, it is a gift we give to ourselves. It is the key to peace, the path to love, and the doorway to joy. Dogs forgive without hesitation, without expectation, without condition. And if we can learn to forgive even a fraction of the way they do, our hearts will be lighter, our relationships stronger, and our lives infinitely more joyful. In their small, simple acts of forgiveness, dogs teach us one of life's most profound truths. To forgive is not just to heal another, it is to heal ourselves.